125 feet high. Well, again, I have to do something with that number. There's my equation. This is going to go in either here or here. Where am I going to put the 125? That is the distance. So I'm going to have 125 equals negative 16t squared plus 100t plus 18. Now, what am I going to do with that? What's that? Set it equal to 0. It's a quadratic equation. So I'm going to set it equal to 0. Double check that arithmetic. I think that's right. What do I do with that? You could complete the square. I would not do that in 100 zillion years because the first step to completing the square would be dividing. And look at those fractions I'm going to have, right? Now, could I get the right answer? Absolutely, but it's way more work than I want to do. I'll use the quadratic formula. And since I have a calculator available to me, these big numbers don't scare me. So I'll have 100 plus or minus the square root of 100 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Now this is going to naturally generate two solutions. It's a quadratic equation. We talked about that yesterday. We aren't alarmed by that, are we? No. We understand there could very well be two solutions. So my discriminant is the square root of 3152. So I have 100 plus the square root of that number divided by 32. So one answer is about 4.9. And the other answer is about 1.4. If I type that in right. Anybody match that yet? Anybody get that far yet? Okay, this is another one of those things. If you just sit there and watch and frantically copy this down and you're not participating, then chances are when you take a test, you're not going to be able to do this on your own. You need to practice it. You can't get good by watching. You have to do it.
Can you just put the, do you have to like round it off to the seconds, or can you just put that solution? Like 100 plus or minus the square root of it?
No. We want answers to this question. We want answers, yeah. If somebody asks you, Stephen, when will the ball be this high? Is this how you would answer that question? Probably not.
Is it possible to graph that in a ton of zeros?
Absolutely. And if you're using a calculator on this problem, you absolutely could graph it. You would simply type this into your calculator, y equals.
I got that.
It's going to be a parabola opening up. This is. Now, if you graphed the original equation, if you move this over here, so you had a negative 16t squared, you'd have a parabola opening down. That's totally irrelevant in terms of finding the zeros. So you would be looking for where it equals 0, and there would be those two answers. You could also, if you wanted to, depending on how you like to do it, you could graph this parabola, which would be a parabola opening down, this right here. You could graph the line 125 and find where they intersect. That's what's really happening in the problem. That would be a picture of the actual problem. But both of these would give you exactly the same answers. Okay, did anybody get these two answers?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then the third Was there a third question, or did I erase it? Yeah, no. When will the ball be on the ground? When will the ball be on the ground? Now, you have two variables in your equation, and you need to figure out which one you know, because that's what you have to do. You have to plug something in either here or here. So the question is, when will the ball be on the ground? That leads me to believe that the variable is going to be t, right? Which means I need a number to plug in here for the height. When will the ball be on the ground?
0.
0. So we're simply going to solve this quadratic equation. And how will we do that? We could just do the quadratic formula again, or you could graph this one if you wanted to. If you had a calculator, wouldn't matter, whatever strategy you want to use. Now, I do want to be careful about this one. Let's go ahead and work it out because something's going to happen here. You can either leave this negative or divide it out. I think if I'm solving, I'm just going to divide it out. That way I don't have to worry about it. So t will equal 100 plus or minus 100 squared minus 4 times 16 times 18. Okay, now, I want you to notice something here. I got a huge discriminant. Anybody else get this? 1, 1, 1, 5, 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so 100 plus the square root of that divided by 32. So one answer is about 6.4. Other answer is about negative 0.2. Now what about that? And why can't, what does that stand, what's going on there? That's a time, right? Now, let's think about, practically speaking, what's going on here. Remember, this ball was thrown from the top of a building. So here's my coordinate axis system, and here's 18. This is what this picture looks like, right?
It's shown as like a
So
progress
the
of
other intercept is back here, and that doesn't make any sense in this problem, right? So that's why we only have one answer this time. The other one completes the parabola, but it doesn't make sense in the problem. Okay, all right. Now, let's look at, did we finish our quizzes yesterday? Did we get all the questions answered about the quiz yesterday? At the end of the period. Okay, then let's look at our homework. I'm not answering any questions on problems you didn't try. So those of you that completed the assignment, did you have a question about one of these? Or any 3B. 3B. Says write the equation of the line. Okay, the minute it says write the equation of a line, what pops into my head? What do I have to have? I gotta have a slope, and I gotta have I gotta have a point. It doesn't have to be the y-intercept, but I have to have a point. It could be the y-intercept. I need a slope and a point, period. All right, so where am I gonna get that from? I know I have x squared plus y squared equals 5. What's that? X squared plus y squared equals 5. That's a circle centered at the origin with a radius of root 5. So this is a picture. Somewhere on that circle is the point 1, comma 2. And I'm going to write the equation of this line. So the point is 1, comma 2. I've got that. Now I need the slope of this line. I don't think I can find the slope of that line because I don't have another point, do I? Well, I've got the origin, but the origin isn't a point on that line. However, the origin, we did one of these in class, do you remember?
It's perpendicular.
It's perpendicular.
This is perpendicular. Now, can I find the slope of the radius?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Then I will take the opposite reciprocal, and that will be the slope that I need. So what's the slope of this one? The points are the origin, and 1, comma 2, so the slope of the radius, that's this right here, the slope of the radius would be 2, which means the slope of the line I need is negative 1/2. So however you write your equations, you should come up with negative 1/2 x plus 5/2, 2.5. All right, who else? Did you do one? Are you too young?
Yes, but,
Full-size, non-generic box tomorrow.
okay, but I didn't do it because I didn't know how to do it. So can I ask it or no?
Which one?
5B.
5B,
Yeah.
okay. We did some of these yesterday.
I know, but I can find my notes on them.
You can always rewatch.
Is it online? Oh.
Do you think I just do this for fun?
I didn't know.
So I can sit and watch it on my iPad or what?
I thought maybe you like used them for.
For what?
I don't know.
All right, who remembers, this is exactly like a homework question somebody asked yesterday. What am I gonna do here? There's a couple things I don't like about this equation, so what am I gonna do?
Don't you just divide the 2 out?
I would divide the 2 out first. Now remember, there are other strategies to doing these problems, but I'm gonna do it this way every time. You can do it other ways if you want, you gotta end up with my answer. This is the way I'm gonna do every single one of these. Now, this does not exactly look like a distance, because that's a plus and it's supposed to be a minus. But if I think of it as minus a negative, this is the distance between some number and negative 1/2. And I want that distance to be 7/2. So I'm gonna set up 2 boundaries out here. And to get those boundaries, I'm gonna go 7/2 that way and 7/2 this way. So where would I be if I went 7/2 this way? 6/2 or 3. Where would I be if I went 7/2 this way? Negative 8/2 or negative 4. So these are the 2 points that are exactly 7/2 away from negative 1/2. Right? But I want to be less than that. So I'm either going to be outside my boundaries or inside my boundaries. Those are my only 2 choices. Since it's less than, it will be inside. So our answer is all of the x's between negative 4 and 3. If you did the problem anyway, that should be the answer that you come up with. So if you didn't get that, then you made a mistake. If you got that, then you're good to go.
For 8 and 9, I was kind of confused on like it says window and like answer is changing.
Well, the answers are, what do you get when you solve that? Because your job is to solve this thing, okay? And when we say, shh, I'm looking at problem 8. When the directions say solve graphically, that means I'm gonna graph it on my calculator, right?
Yeah.
So let's type it in on our calculator and see what it looks like. I'm doing number 8. If you had a question about it, you should be doing it right along with me. Now, what do I need to see? Different questions require me to see different things on my graph. What do I need to see when I graph this if my job is to solve it? I need to see the roots, and where will the roots be? They'll be the x-axis. So I need to see this curve crossing the x-axis. I do not necessarily need to see anything else. I just need to see where it crosses the x-axis. So here's what my screen looks like. There's what my screen looks like. Does yours look something like that? Now, these are the answers, right? How do I find those? Second calc, zeros, or zero, left bound, right bound, and I get that one. And then I come over and I repeat here, and I come over and I repeat here, right? So I can find those points. Those are the answers. That's the answer to the question. Now, how much work did I show in getting those answers? 0, right? So if I am assessing you, if I'm grading you, I just want to see what are you looking at on your calculator to get the answers that you got. So I'm asking you to do exactly what I did, just show a little sketch. This is what I saw. That goes in that box there. And then I want to know, what was your window? What gave you this picture? So for me, my x's went from -10 to 10, and my y's went from -10 to 10. Now, do they have to be -10 to 10? Could you get a decent picture with another window? Yeah, I just want to know what it is, because I have absolutely no idea what you're doing, because you're not showing me any work. So you're just going to write down the picture that you see and the window that gave you that picture. How many right answers are there? A zillion, right? I mean, I've got -10 to 10. You could have -15 to 15 and see exactly, get the exact same thing, the exact same answer. Okay. All right, who else had a question about one of the problems on the review sheet? Delaney?
Remember to use the same formula.
Number 10? Yeah. Okay, now, think about that for a second. Just think a second. Would number 10 use the projectile motion formula? We sure hope not. I don't want to be in that airplane. If it's using the projectile motion, I don't want to be in it, right? So what's going on in number 10? Read A. There's a key word in there. Write the equation of a linear function. So what are they asking me to do? Write the equation of a line. Okay, did they give me any kind of data that would allow, what do I need to write the equation of a line?
Point and slope.
I need a point and a slope. They're telling me to use the data for Buffalo and Houston. Buffalo isn't Buffalo a point? What's the point? 400, 118. And isn't Houston a point? So what are they giving me? 2 points? And they say, write the equation of the line. Can I do that? I find the slope. Either y equals mx plus b or point slope, whichever way you want to do it, and you're going to get your equation. Now, when you get your equation, you're going to have 2 variables in it. You're going to have a y and an x. Remember, when you set up your ordered pairs, you set them up like this, Delaney. So x represents what? distance, and y represents cost. So when they then ask you in question B, it costs $172 to fly to Indianapolis, where are you gonna put that 172? In for y?
And then what would go in for X?
Nothing goes in for x, you're solving for x. Yeah, yeah. Because you're gonna, your equation's already gonna be written, you're gonna have something like y equals 2x plus 3. If you put 172 in here, can you figure out what the x is? Yeah, that's what you're doing.
Can we do 6B?
We talked about this briefly one day, 6b.
I know you have to like divide it by 4.
Yep, that's exactly what you do. So you take this big giant exponent and you divide it by 4. And the reason that we divide it by 4 is why? What is special about 4? I to the 4th equals 1. Every I to the 4th basically just disappears because it's just a 1. So we're going to see how many of those disappearing ones we have. So we'll do the division. What does that 43 mean? 43 ones. So 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, 43 times, doesn't really matter. Don't worry about that part. This is the part that's important. Because that says if you took all these i's and you wrote them all out, there'd be 43 groups that you could disregard. You just disregard those. But there would be these 3 little i's at the end that were left over. So this is the same as I cubed. Because all the groups of 4 are not important. What's I cubed? Negative I. Now, I don't care if you want to memorize that's negative I or if you want to figure it out. I cubed is I squared times I, and I squared is negative 1. You've got to know I squared is negative 1 because that shows up in other problems. You've got to know that one. But if you remember I squared is negative 1, you can figure out what I cubed is. Okay? We already talked about it. What's your question?
I understand why 400 had to be choice.
Well, it doesn't have to be, but when she wrote her equation, these are the ordered pairs, this is the way she set her ordered pair up. So she made an X. Now, if you switch that around and made 118 comma 400, you will get a different equation, but ultimately the same answer.
So either way.
Yeah. Normally we let X be the independent variable, Y be the dependent variable. Now what that means is that Y will be the variable that depends on the other one. So when I go to buy an airplane ticket, the cost of the ticket depends on where I'm flying, right? So it makes sense to set them up the way she did. That makes more sense than the other way. But as the creator of the problem, you can do whatever you want. All right, anything else? You know about a bicycle 5 years ago, the bike is now worth, the equation models the value of the bike as a function of time. How many years ago was the value of the bike? $150. All right, we need to write an equation. What kind of equation is this? It's a linear equation, right? So if I'm going to write a linear equation, I need a couple of points so that I can find the slope and go on. Do I have a couple of points? What are the points that I have?
Can't we plug those in?
Well, one set of points I could use, and you've got options here, but this would be one set of points you could use. keeping in mind that my ordered pairs, it doesn't say y equals mx plus b, it uses t and v. So I've got tv ordered pairs. So what would this ordered pair mean? At time 0, the bike was worth $235 or $237.
Could you do 5 and 270?
And at time 5 years, the bike is worth $92. Could we also,
5 years ago, my cost was 270.
all right, now let's talk about this. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Not really, because if you're gonna make this now, this would have to be -5, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Right?
makes sense, yeah.
So I prefer this myself, but you could go this way. Now, what are you gonna do with these 2 points? You're gonna find the slope and write the equation of your line, right? So you're gonna get a number here, I don't know what it is, and you're gonna get a number here, you know how to do that. Once you do that, then it says, when was the value of the bike $150? Now, I may have a mistake on the answer sheet here. Somehow this is floating around in the back of my mind that I messed this up. So let me see, what's the equation work out to be? The equation works out to be -29x plus 237. Okay, that's my equation. Now, how many years ago was the value of the bike 150? Well, where would the 150 go? Remember how you set up your ordered pairs? So the 150 is going to go here, right? So when I solve that, I can solve that equation, and I'm going to come up with an x value, right? That's 3 according to the work I did. This turns out to be 3. Now, this is where I got to be careful because I worded the problem in a tricky way, unintentionally, but it came out tricky. So the ordered pair is 3, 150, right? Now, this is now, isn't it? The question doesn't say when was the bike worth 150. It says how many years ago. So if t worked out to be 3, how many years ago was that? 2. The actual answer to the question is 2. That's totally tricky. It just, I wasn't paying attention when I wrote the question. But you see what I'm saying? The actual answer is 2 years ago. Because now it's the 5th year. When was it worth $150? In the 3rd year.
It's like
Right.
1, 2,
I didn't mean it to be tricky.
count this year. Next year, something like that.
All right, anything else? Any other questions?
Yes.
Your homework then is a massive assignment, and it's not due until Monday, test day. So when you walk in on test day, you will turn in this massive amount of review problems out of the book. Okay? So you have, well, I don't know how much time is left. We gotta get these clocks fixed. You have whatever time is left.